must not go back to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
That help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it. It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Hey everyone, I'm your host Dan, back with another massive chapter as we near the end of Chamber of Secrets. Chapter 17, The Heir of Slytherin, is what we're talking about today. And we have Anna back with us.
Hey everyone!
So it's kind of exciting that we're coming to the end of this, which I feel like is just a blink of time, and then all of a sudden
it went fast.
Super fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of exciting that we're here, and this is a cool chapter. I really enjoyed reading this chapter.
Likewise. Yeah.
Which we'll get into in just a second. But how this chapter starts is with Harry entering the chamber itself, and the way he's kind of describing this, it just made me feel, you're walking into a dark place where you know there's a monster lurking.
A monster that can kill you just by looking at you.
Right.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And we've talked about Gryffindors and bravery a lot on this podcast. We talked in book 1 about Neville and his growth through just book 1.
Yeah.
And we've talked a couple episodes ago, or last episode, about Ron and his fears with Aragog and things like that, and all the spiders in the forest. But now I think, obviously Harry's bravery is on display multiple times throughout the books, but
what is
here,
it not on display?
I know. He gets put in a lot of situations.
Stereotypical Gryffindor right there, Harry James Potter.
But here, he's going in alone. Nobody with him this time. No Ron and Hermione to help him on this particular journey.
Very slim chances of being successful in the whole point of going.
And he doesn't even know what's coming.
Yeah.
Like, he thinks he knows what's coming. He has no idea.
No.
Which makes this even way harder.
Yeah.
So I just kind of read those first couple of paragraphs. I'm like, wow, Harry's really stepping up to the plate here.
Well, it's hard to remember sometimes that he's 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just hearing his thought process and walking into those chambers, it's much braver than fully grown adults would be. And he's little tiny.
As proven
he's
by
not
Lockhart,
even a teenager.
who tries to bolt like Rachel
Touche.
Price.
Oh, Gilderoy.
But yeah, it is kind of interesting, like how we know the professors at Hogwarts are immensely talented.
Yes.
But this is a big ask of anybody.
Yeah.
And, we see them all huddle in the teacher's lounge, which was still kind of a cool scene to see them as peers just discussing this out and talking about it.
I love that scene.
I love it too.
But even in that scene, they weren't discussing trying to find the chamber and rescuing Ginny. They were discussing how to get the students home.
Yeah. Yeah. It was an interesting discussion. So I'm just wondering, how many of our esteemed professors would even dare attempt this feat? Not saying that they wouldn't or they couldn't, but it's a hard ask is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
And I think our professors are capable, but it's still thinking about it and then being on the doorstep of it are two very different things.
Very different.
So, I don't know, just a thought that came up to me right now as I'm talking about this. But as Harry enters the larger chamber that basically this entire chapter takes place in, he's describing this epic statue. And in our little pre-production meeting here, Anne and I noticed that we both have the same note of a description of the statue.
Oh my gosh. I can't. I still can't.
It caught us both off guard as we read it.
WTF.
Yeah. It stopped my reading, flat. I'm just like, why? The word that is used to describe, I believe, the face.
The face of well, I guess it's never explicitly said it's Salazar Slytherin, but the statue at the end.
Right. And it is described, amongst other things, like a long beard going down to the bottom of the robes and things like that. But one of the words used to describe it is monkey-ish.
Monkey-ish.
That's an odd choice of words.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it is.
Truthfully, I'm not exactly sure what is meant by that.
All right, so...
I'm not sure.
Exact line. The giant face above. It was ancient and monkeyish.
I'm not 100% sure what that even means.
Ancient and monkeyish. I don't know. I don't know that I want to know what she meant by that. And you brought this up when we were talking about it before, just like with how descriptive J.K. normally is, with how
one of the strengths of her writing.
Impressive her writing usually is.
Uh-huh.
What kind of adjective is this?
Yeah.
I just don't...
It caught me so off guard that it literally interrupted my reading on this read through, and I was like, wait, stop, what?
Yeah. It's
just a very odd choice of words, but anyway, we had to bring it up on this and just be like, well,
not a fan.
No, it was just it was weird. Anyway, so Harry then hears a groan in the chamber and goes and runs and finds Ginny lying there unconscious, with some slowed breathing, not looking very great. No. Very pale.
Cold.
But he rushes to her and flings his wand away. Why? Place the wand next to you or something.
Why do you even need to put it down?
Also valid. Like, I don't understand.
Also, he never checks her pulse, which bothered me a little bit. Like,
he's
really
also
just
12.
shake it.
Like,
shake her? That's not going to work. Okay.
I don't know that he
He's
knows
12.
his ABCs of how to, like, assess an unconscious individual.
Sorry, nurse for a mom.
Fair enough. No, but he did this before when they go in the Aragog chapter and they were about to enter the forest. He leaves his invisibility cloak behind, which Julie and I discussed, and how, there's pros and cons to it, because ultimately, maybe the Weasley car doesn't find them if they're under the cloak, and there's pros and cons to it. But ultimately, if you're not going to wear it, I don't care. Don't leave it behind. You never leave the cloak behind. Don't toss your wand randomly.
Well, definitely don't toss your wand randomly.
Two things
that's more
that
important
could save
than
your
the
life.
Cloak, I would say. Always keep your wand on your person, I would think.
Two things that can save your life at any given moment, and you're very flippant in how you just deal with these things. Okay. I promise, I'm done with the whole Harry being weird or an idiot for just a second. I'll put that to the side. Anyway, the meat of this chapter is regarding the heir of Slytherin himself. We finally meet this individual. I was about to say in the flesh, but that's not true. In memory, we meet this individual. That's true. So he essentially has this monologue. And I don't know about you, but in this monologue, this is where I loved this chapter. Because for me, it's entrancing, I think is the word I used. It sucked me in. It was probably my favorite. I mean, a lot happens in this chapter. This was probably my favorite part. Yeah, I just found myself reading it and I was like, I don't want to stop. I was rereading. I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to the beginning of this and read again. And I think it was because I wasn't so much entranced. I wanted to know the logic behind his magic. Everything that he was talking about and everything he did. I wanted to know more. I was like, okay, maybe if I reread it, I can get another little tidbit out of this monologue. Mm-hmm. And he says a lot. Yeah, he does. And he unloads a lot of information in such a way that I think is so descriptive of who Tom Riddle is. Yeah. You really get a window to his soul. Thank you. No, you get this insight as to who this person really is. Yeah. Very charming. You know the myth. This isn't a spoiler because he literally tells you in this chapter, Tom Marvolo Riddle, I am Lord Voldemort. But he tells you who he is, and you have such a myth built up around who this person is. You've heard and you haven't heard, and that's part of the myth too. You do and you don't, because this is who he was
before, like he went through all of his transformation.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of just like, how much of this charming, intelligent child, like he is still just a teenager.
Yep.
How much of him was left by the time he reemerged and let the world know him as Lord Voldemort?
That is just discussion for the spoilers.
Isn't it, though? But
because we can go down that road too. But you get a sense of like he has this playful tone about him.
Yeah.
And it's this like playing with his food kind of a little bit, but also it's such a menacing undertone to it.
Yeah.
Like he's playfully threatening you in this like passive aggressive way, like it's just toying with you.
Yeah.
Like you don't even know who you're dealing with.
Well, and he's standing there like twirling Harry's wand. Like there's so many different levels of him playing with you.
But that is in a sense, and again, we can get a lot more in this in the spoiler section too, but that's part of the manipulation factor. That's him toying with your own head of like, you're so far of a concern to me that this is fun. And you get the sense that this is almost a fun that he hasn't had in a while.
Yeah.
So he's relishing it that much more.
Because he's been stuck in a diary.
Yeah. So and he tells you as much. It's like, yeah. Ginny was fine. She was boring though. This is what I wanted.
He called her boring so many times.
Yeah. And a brat and whatever. Yeah.
Boy.
Well, and some of this. Well, again, his ambition is so far out of the realm of most 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
So his thoughts are way over here. He's not concerned with
crushes.
Fred and George are making fun of me again.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool for you, I guess, but I'm like on this other level here. Like, get to my level. And he pokes and he tries to get...
You don't think he wrote her Valentine song for her?
I had never considered that before.
Neither had I until this exact moment.
I'm going to go with a no on that one.
Go with the no.
But he also, that's another insight that you get to him is he played the part and he did what he had to do and he started playing the game.
Yeah.
And he's really good at playing the game.
Yeah.
And he'll, I guess, sacrifice like what he wants now for what he wants later.
Well, he's really good at the long game.
Whoa,
sure.
which, again, we'll talk about later. But, yeah, no, the long game, that's his whole shtick.
Yeah.
Which he addresses here. I like the note of... Well, he had a couple of good lines and good quotes. And one of them was, speaking of Ginny, she opened her heart and spilled all her secrets to an invisible stranger. Which is just such a evocative line.
Well, and I have a lot of thoughts about that I would want to talk more about, I guess, in the spoilers. Because Ginny, she poured so much of herself into that diary. And it's just, you're right, evocative is a great word for it.
And part of me, honestly, just reading this chapter, I almost can't blame Ginny. Because he's talking here, and what am I doing? I'm getting sucked into his monologue and what he's saying, and I'm like, oh man, I'm finding myself getting like just sucked into it.
Well, it's
like I can only imagine.
He's so charming. He's so good at like playing to what he knows his role needs to be. And Ginny's struggling. She's this little first year who's got these big brothers who are just like teasing her. And we've talked before about not understanding her. And here's this, person just understanding her, probably being very kind to her. Maybe he did write her little Valentine and was like, maybe this will help you. Like, how could she not pour more and more of herself into it?
You can almost...
It became like her imaginary best friend.
You understand how dangerous the diary is, but also how dangerous he is.
Yeah.
And
he is for sure.
And again, like you pointed out, he's 16. He's a teenager.
Right.
Like, jeez. It's horrifying. And then and he doesn't stop there. He says he grew stronger on a diet of deepest fears and darkest secrets. Another more evocative kind of like you can feel the menace in it and feel the darkness in it.
Yeah.
And it really just smacks you upside the face and just like, wow. And you get hints of like, I think Harry notices that he said something about, I think it was about Ginny liking Harry or something like that. And his eyes glinted red.
Mm.
And to me, that is a sign of him knowing that he's playing with you and he's getting emotions. Like he's poking at you specifically and he can sense that what he's saying is affecting you and he relishes that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like,
and he feels triumphant.
I have you. Like, now I have you in the palm of my hand. Now you're waiting on what I'm saying next. What am I going to say? And it's just a fun game for him that he's really good at. And it's fascinating. Which, I'm going to jump gears here, but it makes that scene in the movie that much worse for me.
Oh, can we even not?
I know, I'm sorry.
I mean, I am not as much of a hater of the movies as Elizabeth is.
Same.
But this scene was done such a disservice. It's not quite Ron level disservice, but it was done a disservice in the movies.
It comes off as like a very Disney-fied version almost. And I've said that about the early movies.
At it.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah. And this is such and we've said it before about Chamber of Secrets. It's a dark book. This is a dark monologue. This is a dark scene.
Mm-hmm. It's a scary scene.
Yeah.
It's like you said, like Harry walking in, confronting all this, the bravery it must have needed. And then I was really struck as Voldemort was monologuing. The only emotion Harry kept expressing in his inner thoughts was anger. He kept getting angrier and angrier. I was like, how is Harry only angry right now? Like, I would be scared of this guy who's like clearly toying with me. Like I would be like clueless as to what to do with him. And then, like you said, the movie, it's just this big, like, what is even happening here?
But that's where I think the red glint in his eyes also comes from, is he knows that. You're right. Why is anger the only thing Harry's feeling right now? He should be feeling fear, which would be natural. Mm-hmm. It's probably the right thing to feel. You should have a state of alarm going on in you.
A little bit of concern for your life.
Hey, wait a minute. This is a problem. But that's what he does, is he picks at you so you get one thing. He wants you to almost come at him because he knows you can't. You're
not going to win. Yeah.
You're not going to win, so come at me. That's fine. What I don't want you to do is maybe what your brain or subconscious should be telling you to do, of like, you need to run. Like, get out of here now. This is a problem. But that's the whole thing about the diary, is, again, bringing you in. The closer you get to him, the better he is.
Well, and this is what I want to talk about, that aspect of the diary in the spoiler section, because at the end of the day, what he really did with that diary was turn it into a weapon, and it's fascinating to me, but it's a little spoilery, so.
Yes, it is. you can tell we want to. You can tell we want to get to the spoiler so bad, but there's so much
more. Yeah,
there's
a lot in this scene.
Riddle just unloads so much awesome stuff, like casually saying Hagrid wrestled trolls in the Forbidden Forest and raised werewolf cubs. Also, werewolf cubs?
I know, like, I don't understand how that's a thing.
I don't understand that either.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Should we not focus too much on the logic of that, or should we just like move on?
I mean, like, I want to, but I feel like it would be a deep, dark hole, and yeah.
Let's just leave it at, that's a weird comment.
Also, can we leave it at, like, do you think you would have wanted to be friends with Hagrid when you were in school with him?
Well, that's the other thing, is like, and I think we talked about it on another episode too, is Moaning Myrtle, Tom Riddle, and Hagrid were all at Hogwarts at the same time.
Yes.
Like, wrap your head around that trio for a second, just like how those
different houses,
different years, but they were all all there, and they all clearly knew of each other,
right?
So it's a weird dynamic.
That is a weird dynamic, yeah.
But anyway, I mean, how could you not know? I mean, Tom Riddle was everywhere and everything at Hogwarts at the time.
Well, and how could you not know
Hagrid.
Giant
It's
person
hard to
of
miss.
a Hagrid wrestling witch rolls. Yeah.
Hard to miss. But anyway, it was a weird comment and confusing. You also learned that he spent 5 years learning about the chamber.
I have some feelings about that.
Is this also a spoilery thing? Or
No.
Okay, good. Okay.
Just more like realistically.
Hmm?
From 11 to 15. How did he find out all of these different things he
Sure.
needed to know to find the Chamber of Secrets? Like, how did he figure out what the
myth.
monster was? How did he figure
The
out
myth
the
alone.
myth at all? The idea of how he would get down there. What was he doing in a girl's bathroom?
Yeah, I
don't find how realistic is it. How once he did make his way into the chamber, how did he figure out the basilisk was inside of the statue? How did he not die?
Well, he controls it, so I'm assuming that's part of it.
So he knew to just be like, keep your eyes
Well,
closed.
no, I mean, he has access to the
'Cause
same
you're like,
library
"Oh,
Hermione
fuck."
did. So, I mean, he can read. We do know that.
Touché.
But so my answer to that would be, I think it's levels. I mean, obviously he didn't know all of the answers to all of those questions his first year. I think he heard of Slytherin when he learned about the House of Slytherin.
Oh yeah.
Looks into that a little bit and goes, wait a minute. I know that we share this connection. Like, let me go down this path of really finding out about Salazar Slytherin. And that maybe led him down his own rabbit hole of like, oh wait, there's a rumor that this mythical chamber exists. Well, what is that? Let me
He
find out.
probably read Hogwarts of History.
And it's both impressive and not terribly surprising that it took him 5 years to do this. I mean, like, it's impressive because he's a young kid doing all of this and taking the initiative to do it.
Friends.
Well, he did. Well, okay.
You can't call them friends.
That's fair.
He had followers.
Yeah, he had acquaintances.
Groupies.
Yeah. But he's obviously a brilliant kid. But also 5 years, I'm assuming it took him time to find out where this information was, how to get it, and he probably, he's already worked on it probably, but honing that manipulation to get him certain things, to get him access to the restricted section, to get him, he was honing that little skill of his to be like, what buttons can I push to get what I want?
Yeah.
I'm sure he wasn't all on him finding out this information. I'm sure he barked up some specific trees of getting information, being like, so what's this about?
It still seems very far-fetched to me, but I guess if anyone could do it, it would be him.
That's fair. So yeah. So we also get him commenting on Dumbledore, because Harry brings up Dumbledore and says that, Dumbledore's the only one you've ever feared. You can't touch Hogwarts with him here. You never wanted to. You never come close to blah, 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 blah. All this stuff about Harry defending Dumbledore and kind of using it as a attack. And then you get Riddle, not in an antagonistic way, but just kind of like a reflection of like, yeah, he's always not liked me. Every teacher loved me, not him as much. never really got on my side. He was always suspicious. We also learned, I think this is the first time we learned this, that Dumbledore was Transfiguration teacher. Was this the first time we learned that? I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't think it was mentioned in the flashback scene. So yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
So that's a nice little tidbit of information that we get.
It is. I like the connection between him and Minnie. Makes me happy.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine Dumbledore being quite a good Transfiguration teacher. He'd be good at any subject, but except minus divination. But anyway.
I'm sure he could muddle his way through teaching it if he had to.
Probably. So we get interesting comments from Riddle on Dumbledore. We get the Tom Riddle reveal, which is cool. I know everybody has done it. As soon as they see that, they actually go ahead and write it out and piece together. They're like, wait, that can't be right. Oh my gosh, it's right. I know everybody does it. And then we also get some similarities between Riddle and Harry. They kind of he kind of mentions I see a little bit of you in me. which alarms Harry to a specific degree. It's like,
Understandably so.
yeah.
Nobody wants to find similarities between themselves and the Dark Lord.
And he's still got this lingering insecurity of like, well, the Sorting Hat wanted to put me in there. Maybe it makes sense.
Yep.
So I can talk about this monologue for forever. And obviously,
I mean,
we're going long.
I could talk about the similarities between Harry and Voldemort forever. So yeah, we're going long.
We're going long already. But I mean, we can continue talking about just this monologue from Riddle because it's that, like, if it wasn't the most boring podcast to listen to, I would literally read the monologue word for word on here. It's that good. It's that good, people. But anyway.
Bonus episode?
Bonus content? Whenever we get a Patreon.
If we had Patreon.
We'll do that.
I was just going to say that.
When we get Patreon at some point, I'll read this passage for you.
I'm holding you to this. First Patreon episode.
Let us know if you want us to have a Patreon. So, long story short here, Ginny opened the chamber.
What?
Yeah, I know. Kinda. She kinda opened the chamber.
Yeah. No.
So there's that.
Poor Ginny.
Also, the meat of this chapter really is Riddle and his long explanation of everything.
Yeah.
Which no one's complaining about, obviously. But the whole...
There's also a heck of a battle. Not battle, but...
I wouldn't even call it a heck of a battle, because it's very short compared to this
It is.
long monologue that you just had.
Which makes a lot more sense, really. Like, it makes more sense for it to be this short little, like, intense thing than the long, winding chase scene they have in the movie.
Yeah, again, they missed... And I get it. In a movie, you want action versus exposition.
Monologue,
I get that. But exposition in itself can be intense, and it can be attention-getting. And I think if they had done it in a darker tone, I think you could have been... Well, again, I'm an adult having this conversation. If I was a 12-year-old kid, I don't know that I want to be scared in the theater, but
Right.
I get it. Still. Anyway, the battle itself with the Basilisk is extremely short, for the most part. But Fawkes is
I'll take
ridiculously
Fawkes on
awesome.
my battle team any day.
Whew.
Yep.
I like... This is the one, I guess, ding in Riddle's armor is he knows everything there is to know about a Phoenix, yet he's very slow on the uptake. Yeah. And he's figuring this out.
He's too cocky. He's like too confident, yeah. He's making fun of Harry. He forgets the importance that Fawkes could potentially bring to the table.
Shoot, a Phoenix can do this. Oh, shoot, a Phoenix can do this too. Dang, I forgot. And it's like, you just get done with this beautiful exposition of how brilliant this man is, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, man. Oops. Dumbledore got him again. It's like, yeah, but let's not overshoot Fawkes here. Fawkes was just
Fawkes
incredible.
really saved the day.
Fawkes was everything.
Yeah. Absolutely
everything. And it's so cool how Fawkes is described in this chapter, because this is the first time I know we met Fawkes before, but this is the first time we really
get true Fawkes.
Right.
Yeah.
A sense of what Fawkes really is, and like just the I'm jumping around in descriptions, but like the warmer than you'd think tail feathers, or the brush of the wing on the cheek, which just makes you feel a certain way.
What really stuck out to me in this reread was I had forgotten that he sings throughout the battle, if that's what we're calling it. That, I think, helps Harry get through it as well. Like that warm feeling you just mentioned, just by the brush on the cheek. I think that Phoenix song throughout facing the Basilisk did more than maybe more than I remember thinking in previous rereads, and probably even more than Harry thinks.
Yeah, it's a weird description of it, because they describe it as like an odd,
I think eerie
used. Song. Yeah. So it's calming isn't exactly a word used to describe it, but I think it almost distracts you from the seriousness of the situation that you're in
Yeah.
for a second. It's like, don't worry, you can chill, I got this. And then obviously, Fawkes delivers a weird, I think, it's a weird gift. I mean, let's be real. It's a weird gift.
Sorting hat.
Like a mangy, old, ripped, torn hat suddenly
That
gets dropped at your
usually
feet.
sings.
Yeah, and you're like, this is odd. Like, this
But
one...
how cool of a use of the hat. Like, who would have ever guessed that the sorting hat could do this? I think it's so cool.
So it gets back to, like... And I don't know if the founders built in that twist to the hat, or if it's like we've kind of discussed on previous episodes, where it's like magic as itself is almost its own character in this series and kind of has a will of its own.
Yeah.
Or Hogwarts in itself is a character and has a will of its own, or both together acting coherently and being like, this seems like we should intervene here. Let's help it out a little bit. Like, it's probably a combination of...
Well, and, like, can magic, like, grow? Because, like, okay, so
Can it
Godric
evolve?
Gryffindor, like, took it off his head to, like, sort the students. But then did that magic that he had to imbue on the hat to be able to do that, like you said, just grow and evolve? And, like, the hat became a whole different entity than what Godric himself could have ever imagined? Like, it's just...
What Harry pulls out of that hat may also have a factor in this magic that we're talking about. It might even be all of the magic that we're talking about instead of the hat, or, you know, whatever. It could...
Also, how excited are you if you're 12 years old and you get to just, like, all of a sudden brandish a sword and kill a snake?
I don't
Like,
know.
all I wanted when I was little was to be able to be Zorro with a sword.
Wow, you went Zorro with it. Okay,
I
interesting.
love Zorro. This is a random tangent. We don't need to go down.
Fun fact, on Anna Trivia, we'll be talking about...
Guy Williams for life.
I don't know if I'm facing a massive snake that a sword is the first weapon that I would think of.
Well, how else are you going to kill it? You gave away your wand.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I'd want more of a long-range weapon than something I gotta get all up in there. Which clearly backfires on Harry because he gets stabbed through the arm with a fang. Which, going back to Fawkes, and I like the description of the tears, too. It's like a silvery, pearly kind of thing. I like that description. It almost gives it like a... You can sense the healing factor, like you're putting like an antibiotic cream almost on your skin.
And I love poor little Harry, too. He's like, oh, is this like death? Why is it getting clearer? Why can I start seeing the chamber again? This doesn't seem right.
We should probably mention that before we get to this very epic climactic scene here in this chapter, this entire time, Riddle has been getting more and more solid.
Yes.
And he's been growing...
Fascinating.
Also fascinating. And again, we can talk about more of the magic behind this in the spoilers, but so this entire time he's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And then Harry takes the fang that I guess fell out of his arm, or he took it out of his arm.
He took it out of his arm as soon as,
Yeah. And his gut instinct, which, if we know anything about Harry by
Fawkes brings him the diary.
Fawkes does bring him the diary.
Fawkes for the win again.
Which I also want to get back to in the spoilers.
Okay.
Because that's interesting. But Fawkes brings him the diary, and the gut instinct that Harry has, and like I was saying, if we know anything about Harry through these first two books, is he might not be the smartest, and he might not be the best, but his gut instinct is usually
spot on.
Right on.
Yeah.
So, without thinking, he just takes the fang and stabs the diary, and this ink just comes pouring out of the diary. And as more and more ink comes pouring out of the diary, Riddle becomes less and less tangible.
When he's screaming, in pain.
Like in pain.
Which is interesting.
Yep. Like, it could have ended here. Like, the book could have ended just after, like, them leaving the chamber. And I would have been satisfied with that, honestly. I would have been like...
Amazing!
Yes, you'll get the... It's just like magic. You'll get that here in a second. But yeah, they leave the chamber. They end up going back, and Ron has dug out a a decent-sized hole where they can sneak on through.
Which, okay, slight going backwards.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for Ron that he didn't get to go help save his sister. And that his, like, main contribution was to dig the hole for Ginny to climb through to get, like... I mean, like... Yay. But...
That was such a lackluster yay.
Well, because I feel like Ron... Like you were talking about earlier, and Julie talked about, like... Ron had some big Gryffindor moments in this book, and I feel like he really wanted to show up for his sister, and, like, if anybody should get to, like, save Ginny, it should be, you know, her brother at this point. Yeah, that's just a random, I always felt bad for him, he didn't get to do more. But
yeah.
Obviously this was Harry's journey, but...
Yeah. If this was Ron Weasley in the Chamber of Secrets, you might have a completely different take. But no, they squeeze through, they find out that Lockhart is...
different.
Yeah, he's a little different. So...
More likable, maybe?
Maybe, which we can get to, actually, I think in the next chapter we get to that.
Yeah.
He's not exactly the same dude that they left. So they end up grabbing onto Fawkes, and then grabbing onto each other, which is one thing, but then, and this is another description of Fawkes, you just have the sense of being lighter.
Yes! I had not remembered that description. I thought that was really interesting.
It's such a cool description.
It's very cool.
Like, there is so much magic to Fawkes.
Yeah.
Because Fawkes is awesome.
Fawkes is awesome. Which, like, we should have anticipated, like, Dumbledore's not going to have a pet that's not really awesome and magical.
I mean, the Phoenix is an iconic thing
throughout
in mythology.
History, yeah.
So, anyway, we'll talk more about Fawkes.
He doesn't go anywhere.
So, anyway, we've gone long. So, we are going to take the Just Like Magic break. Enjoy your Lockhart, and we'll be back with spoilers.
Amazing! This is just like magic!
Back from our quick Lockhart break. And there's a lot to get into in the spoilers. And since we talked a lot about Fawkes at the end of the non-spoiler, we'll pick right up with him again, because I have a question. How do you think Fawkes knew that the diary was the key to Riddle? Like, how do you think Fawkes was able to interpret, like, no, Harry, you need this?
I mean, we talked a lot about there's a lot of magic to Fawkes. Yeah. There's also a lot of magic to the diary, which I really want to talk about.
Yep.
And so maybe just, like, inherently Fawkes' magic somehow picks up. Maybe, like, I'm sure Fawkes didn't know exactly, you know, like, Horcrux, soul, something he just sensed, like, there's this connection between the diary and Riddle, memory Riddle. Maybe if we cut off this connection, all will be well.
You don't think... Obviously, well, I guess I can't say that for sure. Because, again, Fawkes has some insane levels of magic.
So much magic.
So, there's one of two ways this all happens. Fawkes has the ability to teleport in and out of places. Through flame. Like, he can just... So...
Dumbledore's got style.
Yes, exactly. So is Harry being loyal to Fawkes? Fawkes picks up on that and is like, now's the moment and I just have to go to him? Or is he specifically sent by Dumbledore? And if Fawkes is sent by Dumbledore, does Dumbledore have a clue? Or does he have some insight?
So because Dumbledore had that line about Phoenix as being extremely faithful, and, like, I think faithful was, like, even italicized when he was having that teaching moment with Harry about Phoenixes.
Dumbledore does that a lot.
And then Dumbledore had the line about all people being loyal to him. And then Harry shows that true loyalty to Dumbledore. So I, in my mind, kind of made the connection, okay, Harry just proved extreme loyalty to Dumbledore. Fawkes has this extreme level of loyalty to Dumbledore. Maybe the levels of loyalty? Because Dumbledore is no longer in the castle. So
you think
Fawkes
it's a Harry Fawkes connection?
Loyalty type thing?
So it's a Harry Fawkes connection. You don't think
I think it's a
Dumbledore...
more loyalty to Dumbledore connection.
You don't think
Like,
Dumbledore...
without Dumbledore, there's no connection. Like, Dumbledore is the connection between the two of them.
You don't think he gave Fawkes any, like, instruction or any, like...
Maybe, like, be sensing for loyalty to me. Like,
be ready in 3, 2, 1.
Well, no, I don't think it's that exact.
I just wonder if, like, Dumbledore had any... I mean, he doesn't...
But that couldn't have anything to do with Fawkes bringing the diary to Harry, though, because Dumbledore is completely clueless about the importance of the diary at this point. Like, he doesn't know any of that yet. This is literally what sets him on that path. So I think it has to be.
I do like your idea of Fawkes being such a magically powerful creature being able to sense other powerful magic.
Yeah.
I like that idea. So, I don't know, but it did just strike me in the chapter being like, okay, so Fawkes is just going to drop down the key to this whole thing? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, it's true.
Anyway, before I get to the other points, you wanted to talk about, speaking of strong, powerful magic.
Well, yeah, so I really enjoyed a few episodes ago, Molly, hardcore deep dive Voldemort and the timeline of the Horcruxes, and I, want even more. Molly, you go, girl.
It was awesome, yeah.
But, reading this again, and the monologue we talked about, I wanted to know even more about the diary specifically, because I feel like I want to know more about how it works. What is it about the magic in the diary that is causing the life to be sucked out of Ginny, and for Riddle to then, gain an actual, becoming more and more substantial body, and, if Harry hadn't shown up and Ginny had died, would we eventually have had 2 Voldemorts? Voldemort, and Tom Riddle, 16-year-old memory Voldemort. So then I, went on the Google and tried to do some research, and unfortunately it was the HP Wikipedia that had the most information about what I was looking for, so hopefully it's accurate. But it talked a lot about how the diary was the one Horcrux that was, and the exact word they used was weaponized. And so it was kind of imbued with more magic. And that was the reason the more and more Ginny poured herself into it, the more the bit of Voldemort's soul was able to pour into her. And that was the true, this diary was very specific. The other Horcruxes wouldn't have been able to do what the diary does in this chapter to Ginny. And I just found that interesting.
I don't know if it's the only Horcrux that's weaponized. I would say that it is the most weaponized.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. Because, I thought of the locket specifically.
Right,
obviously
right.
The locket did some bad stuff to Ron specifically. But they were still able to wear it without being possessed.
Yeah, no, the types of magic are different.
Right.
But, I think...
I feel like the diary was just very individual or unique.
Riddle is the type of person that's not going to use the same trick twice.
Yeah.
So he's going to make it as hard as possible for you to, A, figure out his secret, and B, do anything about it. So he's going to make each challenge that there is insanely hard, which he does a very good job of.
He does. I think this is the one that kind of creeps me out the most, though.
Well, yeah, it should. It should. And it's, I think to your point, if that part of the memory becomes a solidified actual person, the part that's floating around in Europe at this point in time, I think can then go into that body, and then you have 2 souls in one. Then you combine, 2 parts of him in one again.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So that would be a very strong Voldy.
You're right. Yeah.
That would be a very strong version of him. And I think that's how that
and I
is
guess
how we
that's
would want that to work.
How a Horcrux is supposed to work, yeah.
Right.
Keeps him from dying in the first place, and then...
Yeah. But to your point, there's so many layers to this magic there's the magic of the diary itself, which can like speak back to you and have a conversation with you. And then there's the darker part of obviously the soul becoming whole again, and things like that. And
when he literally possessed Ginny,
yeah,
and like I feel like maybe this is more of a conversation for the next chapter, but like, whoa! I hope Mr. and Mrs. Weasley found Ginny some therapy. Like, talk about PTSD.
Well, yeah,
But
Julie and I had a big discussion on like, and it was after the Ron with the spiders. It's like they have. Do they not have therapy in the wizarding world?
I mean, how many times have we brought up the fact that we hope so many different characters in this series?
The most basic stuff, like Myrtle. Like we had a
We've
conversation
talked
about
that a lot,
Myrtle
yeah.
and the fact that she was having trouble at school and it wasn't going well. Like maybe there should be a counselor for that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Yes.
Well, and I feel like this is more of a conversation we could have in the next chapter
Mhm.
because I had another similar thought for Harry in the next chapter and Ginny. But anyway, yeah.
No, you're right. Ginny goes through it to the point where obviously people noticed. I would like to think people not as close to her also noticed that she might have needed some help. Obviously.
Probably would have noticed it more if it wasn't her first year and they don't know her very well.
Say what you want about Percy, but he was one of the first to really dig in and be like, hey, she's really upset.
Yeah.
We need to check in on her. We need to be a little bit more considerate of her. Pointing to the twins and being like, hey, can you stop doing that? Because it's clearly not affecting her well. So, yeah, but I would have liked to see...
Yay, Percy.
Yeah, I know.
I know I was his biggest
She can't even say it with a straight face.
Anyway.
Yeah, so it would have been nice to see someone outside of her family, because Ron also was defending her quite a bit.
Yeah.
So it would have been nice to see somebody else, but again, it's not the focus isn't on Ginny, nor is it supposed to be, because she's the key to this. But
she's the twist.
Yeah, she's the Quirrell-esque twist to this whole thing that, again, you probably should have seen coming if you see on rereads, because Ginny's pale. Ginny's not doing so well. Ginny.
Stand out a lot more once you know.
Ginny's really upset about this diary being at the Burrow a week after she got it. It's like Ginny. But yeah, keeping with very powerful magic. Riddle does mention in his long monologue that he was like, how did you survive? Because I'm pretty good at what I do. And this doesn't really make sense here. And then Harry gives him the answer. He gives him like, oh, my mother stepped between us and saved me. And then he's like, oh, that magic. That's powerful magic.
Yeah.
And he recognizes it. And he recognizes like, oh, that. Yeah, I get it now. I get how that could have got me.
And it is interesting. So, like, yeah, he obviously knows about it. But also that brought up the question to me, like, what knowledge is there between 16-year-old memory Riddle and, like, fully grown Voldemort Riddle?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, is the reason Voldemort, when he, comes back to power and he knows, it was the love magic from Lily that saved Harry. It's like, is there some connection between the two? Like,
No.
You would think there should be because the same soul in the books. It's very specific. He did not know that any portion of his soul was destroyed until they broke into Gringotts. And he realized they were going for the cup, and that's when he went insane and went to go check on all the other Horcruxes. He never felt any of the Horcruxes being destroyed.
That, I think, is your answer. As to how connected are they?
Okay, but so then in Goblet of Fire, how does he know that Lily is the one that saved him? Like, how does he know he needs to use Harry's blood to come back?
So, well, that I think is just a technique that is like a thing already, I think.
But he could have used any blood. That's what Wormtail brings up. But Voldemort specifically says, no, I need Harry's blood.
But here's the difference. This is a memory of Riddle.
Right.
He doesn't know how Harry beat him.
Right.
But the soul that is out there existing as a shell of himself, as like a wisp or a gas or whatever you want to call it, that Voldemort
He
did get
already
defeated.
figured it out.
He already figured it out.
Because he has this
he was there
knowledge.
and experienced it. He's like,
Okay.
that's
fair
how he
enough.
knows. So it's two versions.
And he just didn't have enough respect for that magic going into Halloween night 1981.
He, I don't know. In the movies, he at least says, I should have recognized it and I missed it. And it's a rare mistake that I've made. Something to that effect. He's like,
I mean, I feel like he makes more mistakes than he gives himself credit for, but...
surrounding Harry specifically.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Normally he doesn't make mistakes like at all. But
Touche.
when it comes to Harry, he seems to make a fair few. But yeah, but it was just interesting that he noted that Riddle was aware of that magic as a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
He had potentially foreseen that, like, oh, that's some powerful magic that not even I might be able to escape.
No.
Is interesting. But yeah, so anyway, there's another point to this whole thing is they get out of this Chamber of Secrets. And they go on, and we'll get there in the next chapter, but so this chamber, it still exists. Like, they didn't bring down the chamber.
No.
It exists.
There's a big, giant basilisk corpse.
Yes. Spoilers, because we're in the spoiler section. The next time we specifically see this is in book 7, when they go down to get...
Which, thank God they didn't touch it, because,
right.
those fangs came in handy.
But you're telling me that the ministry's not like, oh, you figured this out. Can we investigate this?
I mean, forget the ministry. Why doesn't Hogwarts want to investigate?
Sure.
There's this giant chamber built by one of the founders. Here's my take on it. Hogwarts would have done well to employ Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones would not have let the Chamber of Secrets be still until book 7. That's my take.
If this was an Indiana Jones scenario, there also would have been a large ball rolling down one of the pipes coming after
I'm
them.
here for it. Whips would have been involved.
Arrows coming out of the wall randomly. Yeah, the whole bit.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, clearly Slytherin did not protect his chamber that much if there's not, like, booby traps all over the place.
Boom. Harry would not have ever been able to get in if there were the booby traps.
Clearly, Marvolo and Morphin Gaunt really didn't get the job done when they covered this all up. So, anyway.
Yep.
No, but I just wonder, like, this thing's sitting there, like, no one
Yeah.
has thought to be like, I need to check this out.
Maybe because they didn't want to like, Harry's the only one who could have gotten them back inside. Like, parcel tongue would have been required. Maybe for once in his Hogwarts career, Dumbledore didn't want to put him, through further trauma to bring him back down there. I don't know.
I can't imagine Dumbledore's being like, okay,
I know, I can't.
that's
either.
done. Like, moving on.
I don't know.
I mean, there's the other, well, yeah, I guess Harry at the very least would have to open that. Well, not necessarily, does he?
Well, okay. He still would have had to hiss at people until they got it right. Not everybody is Ron Weasley able to recreate.
Yep, let's just sit on that for a second. And
I don't know. I mean, I could kind of see Fudge just wanting to cover it all up and forgetting it ever existed and happened.
Fudge would definitely do that.
Yeah.
That would be something that Fudge would do. But I'd still think he would want to see it for himself. He's a very show me, not tell me kind of
That's true.
person. So,
True.
I don't know. Anyway, that's just kind of the thoughts there. But, so anything else that you had? Or should we just get to it and get to the final chapter?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're there.
I know.
That's crazy.
I'm going to miss all of the Chamber of Secrets openings that we've had.
Oh my gosh, I know, right?
They're really good. I
They're
honestly
really good.
don't know that we can beat some of these quotes because they're good quotes.
It's going to be hard. We set ourselves up with a really high level.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I'm
Whoops.
sure Prisoner of Azkaban will have some great stuff that we can dip into. So,
It's my favorite.
well, on that teaser of a note, we are going to pause right here and then join us next week when we finish Chamber of Secrets.
Woo woo!
Craziness. Hope you enjoyed it. Join us then. Thanks for listening.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hogwarts a Pod.